We got Vincent Medina, and so are you you're a student?
No, this is the Norwalk Patriot.
Okay, but you're not with Cal. Do you write for Cal State Long Beach as well?
I used to.
Okay, but you're not in a university newspaper or anything like that.
This isn't for the university.
Sure. Oh, I got that too. No problem. Great. We got Vince, and so we got Concio, right?
What's that?
I'm sorry.
What is it?
Your last name, pronouncing
Manso.
it. Manso, excuse me.
It's easy.
Manso, not Casio. I'm sorry.
Vincent Monso?
Vincent, right. Vincent.
Any relation to Jose Monso?
Yes, I'm his brother.
Ah,
Yeah.
cool.
Okay.
Clear.
Okay, so
Are
we're
you gonna
interviewing
post this
with him.
anywhere? I'm just curious.
I might. We'll see.
Sure. Okay.
And Jose should be here, I'm thinking, within minutes. Because he,
Okay. And just letting you know
coming.
too, for my own notes, I'm recording. Just make sure I don't misquote you.
Of course.
Cool.
That's
Great.
fine.
You're cool with that too?
Was that?
I'm recording for my own notes.
Yeah, that's
Not-
fine. That's
Make
fine.
sure I don't misquote anybody.
That's
Sure.
Fine, that's fine, yeah.
Great.
Cool.
And by the way, the reason I asked about Long Beach is I saw some of the articles. They were like connected to the Long Beach University. They were connected to Cal State Long Beach. That's why, because I looked at some of the stuff you've written before.
I wrote for the 49er.
That's it.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. All right. That's cool. So just letting you know, I did my own homework too. So.
Awesome. Okay. So Arthur Schaefer.
Shopper, like going shopping. That's how you pronounce
Shopper.
it. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll give you my card.
Cool. Sorry. You're with California MassResistance, right?
MassResistance. I'm helping out the California chapter. I live in California, but we have chapters all over the country and all over the world.
Cool. So California MassResistance.
There you go.
Cool.
You can have that just in case.
I'm also with MassResistance.
Great. And what's your position there?
I'm the field director.
Field director. Cool.
Yeah.
And your name also Vincent and full name?
Manso, same. M-A-N-S-O. Last name is M-A-N.
M-A-N.
S-O.
Monso, right?
Right.
Jose Monso. Your position within California MassResistance?
With the MassResistance?
Yeah.
I guess I'm...
You're an activist. You're a member. Yeah,
I'm
activist. That's
activist,
fine. Yeah.
I'm an activist.
That's fine.
MassResistance.
We don't get picky about like titles, really. I mean, we're here to help. We're here to train, and we help lead. That's what it's about.
Very well.
We are,
Okay,
but I can
are
say
you-
this. I got to add, Becky Langenwalter. She's like our chapter leader. She wasn't able to be here today. That's part of the reason I'm here. Becky Langenwalter. So she's a name you should definitely have down as well.
Sure.
Yeah.
Got it. And if you don't mind me, are you a LA County resident?
I sure am. I live in Torrance.
Torrance, LA County. And you said
I live in Long Beach.
LB. Cool. And so tell me, why was it important for Arthur? Why was it important for you to be out here today?
I was invited to come. Becky Langenwalter and Vincent, Jose, and other parents, they reached out to me. They saw the work that MassResistance, that our California chapter did in Downey, California. We were very active there starting in 2019. We were fighting the school district because they had a Planned Parenthood-based sex ed curriculum. We were active for 6 months straight. We went to school board meetings. We canvassed in the city. I helped organize the pastors, teachers, parents, and we were able to get the school district to abandon that curriculum. We were very successful. And so Becky and other Norwalk La Mirada parents, they saw what we did there, and they said, well, we want your help here.
And so Becky. And I saw your flyer on Twitter.
Okay.
Of course, and there was information saying that Planned Parenthood was. Why don't you explain what your flyer had already?
Certainly. What we are pointing out to people, the staff that are working in the Wellbeing Center at John Glenn High School, they are trained by Planned Parenthood. This is completely unacceptable. Planned Parenthood, it pushes abortion, it pushes sex mutilation of minors. They have a very aggressive agenda, and the school board allowing this Wellbeing Center with people staffed by Planned Parenthood is unconscionable, unsupportable. This is why the parents reached out to us. They want that Wellbeing Center removed. And there were huge protests in July, I believe, last year.
I remember.
And the school district, and the school district said, oh, okay, we won't do it. And then what ended up happening was March of this year, they just slip it right in. They completely blew off the will of the people, the parents in this school district. And so here 3 months later, they reached out to me and they said, we want your help. We want to get rid of it. And we don't want it at Waite Middle School either.
I take it, have you seen the fact sheet that was posted on NLMUSD website?
Yes.
You saw that it said Planned Parenthood had nothing to do with this well-being center.
Here's the problem. As I just said to you, the staff are trained by Planned Parenthood.
I spoke with the PR person for the district, Chris Hargraves. He told me that Planned Parenthood had no weight in the staff training. As a matter of fact, their staff there were trained by LA County.
Well, see, there you go. I mean, you've got LA County is also knee-deep with Planned Parenthood as well. And so we're very clear that, and here's the other problem too. We have recordings of students that was given to me where they are training, they tell the student how to get an abortion. Excuse me, this is not acceptable. We are also aware that students are being taught to buy into like a different gender identity, quote unquote. That's also going on. So I don't know what your facts are, but we're hearing something very different. And regardless, the Wellbeing Center needs to go in John Glenn High School, and it shouldn't be at Waite Middle School either.
Have you?
Go ahead, please. Here's Jose.
I wonder if you've seen the board agenda for tonight. They're opening up all over the district.
No kidding.
Yeah, that's on the board agenda for tonight. There's going to be a presentation about that.
Okay. See, because I took a look at it, I didn't see that. So did they just add it?
Well, Ryan Cummings is speaking, and then there was a link underneath his blurb or his little, mention that he was going to be speaking. If you click on that link, it has his PowerPoint presentation.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're coming up with more centers all over the district.
Yeah.
Both high schools
Yeah.
and all the middle schools.
So this is outrageous. I mean, it's like just a little leaven at the whole lump. They started with John Glenn when everybody said no. And then they slipped it in anyway 7 months later when they think nobody's paying attention. And where MassResistance steps in and why we've been successful is we teach parents how to be organized and how to stay engaged. Because a lot of what we see with a lot of pro-family groups or activist groups generally, they get together, they show a protest, they get upset, and then they just leave.
Because we give up. Because
And they give up.
frustrated and we give up.
And in Downey, we didn't give up. 6 months later, we finally had victory. March 2020, they said we're abandoning Teen Talk. That was the name of the curriculum, Planned Parenthood based. They got rid of it.
I'm familiar with the presentation that you mentioned. They go over that the well-being centers are for student mental health. Any procedures or anything, they are referred to a different place or given fact.
I notice how vague you are on this. They are referred to Planned Parenthood. That is happening.
They didn't say specifically Planned Parenthood.
Doesn't matter what they're telling you. That's what's happening. We've had students. I will say this again. We had a student go into the Wellbeing Center at John Glenn High, recorded the conversation, and they talked about sending her to Planned Parenthood, helping her get an abortion.
They didn't say, "Oh, let us talk about the options that you might have." There's adoption. There's.
If you need the recording, I'll send it to you.
That would be actually very helpful. Yeah, of course.
Okay.
And so you're calling for...
I'd like you to respond to this too. He's now asserting, I don't know where you're hearing. Who told you this?
Chris Hart, the PR person for the district.
The PR person told you. Okay, we dealt with the same nonsense in Downey. They're like, well, this is a very conservative district, and we understand that this curriculum, well, we're trying to be the most conservative we can. The sex ed curriculum in Downey had all kinds of illicit and explicit material. They had naked bodies that they were showing to kids. They were teaching kids about all kinds of sexual acts. They were teaching kids about getting abortions. Excuse me, there is all the PR in the world doesn't cut it. It doesn't justify having these wellness centers, directing kids to Planned Parenthood, having staff that are trained by Planned Parenthood. I don't know what you heard otherwise, but that's what we know.
The MOU, which is the Memorandum of Understanding by which this program was begun in 21, was clearly stated that it was Planned Parenthood that was going to be putting these centers together. It has not been amended, so we can assume that it's still Planned Parenthood, and they just changed the name to the Wellbeing Centers to make it more public relation, okay.
And I can go a step further. I don't mean to interrupt. If you want, okay. You have some of these pregnancy centers, or you have the centers, they've changed their names. You go to Planned Parenthood's website and you will see Lakewood Pregnancy Center. You'll see the different pregnancy centers listed. They're not called Planned Parenthood, but they're connected to Planned Parenthood. It's the same thing. So this is the game that's being played. That's it. And for mass resistance, we have our bigger outrage now because thankfully we see abortions going down. We're not a pro-life group per se. I mean, most of our members are pro-life, but we're fighting, LGBT, specifically this gender modification. Really, it's sex mutilation that Planned Parenthood has now moved into, that they're inducing kids into. They're pushing chemicals on kids to modify cross-sex hormones, etc. That's becoming part of their MO.
And that's the next step, because if they get this across and we don't fight it, then, which we're very strong believers in fighting it, but then they're going to do that, because then they can see that they can go step by step toward that.
And so what should the what should the well-being center be replaced with?
There's no need for one. And here's another problem with it.
To address student mental health?
See, here's part of the problem. You're having these, I wanted to speak to this. These well-being centers are having peer-to-peer mental health counseling. This is ridiculous. When you want to get mental health counseling, you need professionals. And you need people who are trained, you need adults. It shouldn't be peer-to-peer. So that's the first problem. And the second problem is, when it comes to mental health issues, these are very intimate issues. And this is something where parents do need to be involved as much as possible. What is happening all over this country, and our organization is exposed, is you have kids who deal with identity dysphoria, which is becoming a big issue. What these therapy sessions or these therapy groups tend to do is that kid says, oh, I'm a girl, but I feel like I should be a boy, or I'm not comfortable as a girl, and so then they go to these therapy sessions on the campuses that are unvetted or unqualified or certainly not supported by real science, and they're induced further into this confusion. This is not acceptable. We have a chapter in Idaho right now that's exposed the school district in the eastern part of the state. Kids are being transitioned by the counselor. The parents don't have any knowledge, and they certainly don't give permission for this. Here in the state of California, you had a committee, it shut down a bill which would have required every school district to inform the parents if their children are, putting forth a different identity, want to be called by a different name, or want to be called by different pronouns. This is a child abuse. You can't change your sex. That's impossible. It's biology. This has nothing to do with Bible thumping or bigotry or any other agenda. It's just truth. And inducing these lies onto kids, that's harming them mentally. That's creating mental health problems. And I mean, let's go back. How long have you worked in the district?
Since 1975.
Okay, so we're talking almost 50 years. So do you really think, so we're talking like 49 years,
Yeah.
and there wasn't a need for...
There was an interruption in between, so it wasn't a straight 50 years, but I would say 25 years altogether.
Nonstop, and there wasn't, you didn't see this issue of mental health.
Never.
You didn't see this. So we're seeing there's different issues at work that are causing all of this trauma or these problematic mental health issues for kids, and bringing in a bunch of unvetted people that the parents don't know about, who are trained by Planned Parenthood to help with mental health issues. This is not acceptable. This is a complete violation of privacy. It's a violation of mental health metrics, etc.
Do you believe what Chris Hargraves is saying is a lie, essentially?
Yeah. Or that what they're telling us is not the truth, or they're uninformed themselves. That's a big issue, especially, school districts are, no offense, but they're like school districts, there's a growing lack of transparency. I mean, as I mentioned to you before, you have kids who go to school, having no issues with their identity, and then at the end of the year, this is happening in Oregon, it's happened in Ludlow, Massachusetts. We did a huge expose.
What do you think is causing all this?
Well, first of all, you have social media, which is promoting these false identities on kids. You have children who, it's a social contagion. And this is what's happening with a lot of girls, why you have these girls, they should be, puberty is a tough time for kids because they got to get used to their body changing, their voice changing, there's development changes, and it's traumatic. There's also mental health, there's mental development issues just because of puberty. And so what happens then is there's this discomfort, and then they see stuff on social media. They see all these people who say, I was born a girl, but, I realized I should be a boy. It solved all of my problems. And so I went under the knife. I got these cross-sex hormones, etc. And they present this euphoria, and a lot of kids are taken in by that. I was talking to a father in Arcadia a couple years ago. His son was struggling with identity dysphoria and even same-sex attraction issues. And it was a lot of the pressure that he was seeing on social media. There's a lot of that inducement from that. And
so Are you against the LGBTQIA plus community?
You see, I don't accept that premise. People aren't born homosexual. They're not born in the wrong body. I don't think anybody's natural rights should be violated. Let me be very clear about this. Mass Resistance, we stand on a biological and a natural law platform. Every human being has innate dignity and should be respected. It's constitutional, right? All men are created equal, endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights. We don't believe in supporting a lie. People aren't born in the wrong body and they're not born homosexual. And there's growing body of evidence to support this. We have a book, Health Hazards of Homosexuality, which draws on numerous sources from the New England Journal of Medicine to the Center for Disease Control, National Institute for Health. There's no genetic evidence that people are born homosexual. We've worked with men and women who are former homosexuals themselves. And this is the big thing when it comes to the schools, and another reason why these well-being centers are not appropriate, because they push this lie that, okay, maybe you are gay, or maybe you are in the wrong body. These are lies, these are destructive lies. They harm the body, they harm the mind, they harm mental health.
And so what is your view towards people who do choose to marry the same gender?
And I think that's interesting. You said choose, and I will correct.
Well, because those are your words. So in your view, they're choosing to marry the same
See,
person or whatever.
and I'm going to, actually, I did not say choose, you did.
You said quote, homosexual is not a choice.
I said they're not born that way. That's what I said. That is exactly what I said. You make sure to go over. That's part of the reason why I record. I did not say. I said they were not born that way. But what I will assert is this, and you can look at any set of metrics. You can look at psychological diagnoses on this. People who struggle with, and I'll say struggle because even in affirming countries like Sweden, Norway, Denmark, you see issues, health and quality of life issues that affect homosexual and transgender populations.
Thank you.
Individuals with same-sex attraction or with identity dysphoria, they have endured one or more of 5 issues: abuse, neglect, confusion, molestation, or shame. I assert to you now, these are people who've been victimized and they need help. They do not need to have their rights taken away as natural right. They don't deserve to be demeaned, but these are behaviors that shouldn't be promoted, and certainly not to children, and certainly not in a public school setting. Because they're harmful. We don't teach kids to do meth. We don't teach kids to cut themselves.
But you said we don't teach kids to do math?
They should, no, meth,
Oh,
drugs.
Okay, my bad.
You know, these are harmful behaviors. They shouldn't be taught to kids. And the same is true. And this goes back to the well-being centers issue. These
Are you a
are,
parent? I'm just curious.
I'm not a parent, no.
You're not a parent?
No.
Okay.
I do this, so I gave up having a family. That's a choice. I told you, we have chapters all over the country, all over the world. I'm working with people in Idaho, Montana. I've worked with people in Oregon. I was helping a mother whose daughter was almost taken away from her because she was struggling with identity dysphoria. And then Child Protective Services wanted to come in and try to take her daughter away because the mother wouldn't affirm a lie. We were able to help the mother so that she was able to keep her daughter, and she ended up homeschooling her daughter.
And so if, again, with same-sex couples, how do you view that?
It's a lie. Marriage is one man and one woman. Again, this is not my point of
So
view.
Same-sex couples who have married, you view that as illegitimate?
It's illegitimate because it's not based in natural law, natural right. It's a complete violation of thousands of years of history. It's a violation of cultural.
Natural law, how are you determining what's natural law?
Natural law, the laws of nature and nature's God. We're talking about natural phenomena. It takes a male and a female to give birth to children. This is a process that's been established for thousands of years. For natural law and natural right, if you want a further discussion, you can go to James Wilson. He was one of only 6 men who both signed the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. He explains natural law and natural right much more effectively than I can, and certainly can't do it in an interview. But the idea of natural law is that you have certain laws and realities that are everybody is bound by. Gravity is a natural law. I can't jump off a building and expect to be able to fly. If I want to fly, I have to have the law of thrust at my beck and call.
Do you want to actually see the presentation? I have it right here really quick.
Which presentation?
The presentation from that they're about to show right now.
I'm going to see it then and there. But
I'm just going to pull out, if that's okay.
Just to add and to support what you were saying, the frontal cortex of the brain isn't completely formed until 25. That's where decisions are made.
yes.
And so children are not able to make these kinds of decisions about what
Yeah, they don't have the equipment.
they don't have they don't have the mental science. This
That's
is
it.
driven by mental science.
In fact, I want to just build on that. There's other groups that are militantly fighting transgenderism, this whole, this whole agenda, and they militantly assert nobody should be getting any kind of procedure done unless they're 25. I mean, but currently the laws that people succeed in passing are 18, because that's our common law tradition. 18 years old, you're of majority. You can enter into a contract. You can do other things. It really should be 25 if we're looking at science and mental health, since that's a common theme that you've brought up, Vincent.
In California now it's 12 years old.
See, and that's something else. I really go ahead.
No, you know what? When you said peers to peers, did you understand what he meant?
Peers to peers, I understand. I'm pulling up.
It's a student guiding another student. A person my age guiding somebody the same age as the kid that's coming in with a problem. It's not adults or medical personnel or psychological personnel. It's just a kid telling another kid, yeah, you're okay, I did this, I liked it, and that type of thing. And that's what he means when this centers go into the schools and have what do they call it?
Peer-to-peer
Counselors. They have counselors.
Yeah.
Peers to peers. That a 17-year-old telling a 17-year-old what, 18-year-old telling a 16-year-old what to do.
And it's a 17-year-old that was trained by Planned Parenthood telling another student.
And I'd like you to develop this, because there's a conflict here. He's disagreeing with this. Could you elaborate that further?
I'm just telling you what was told to me.
Interesting. So you might want to bring that up tonight, because
I have a speech all prepared.
would you say again? So it was the PR person who told you that?
Hargraves, which thing are you referring to?
You're saying that Planned Parenthood has nothing to do with anything
I
going.
think you saw the fact sheet that was.
MOU.
Yeah, I had a conversation with Chris Hargraves about this. Pulling it up right here. Give her a second.
What time is it? What time is
Oh,
it?
no, I don't know.
You have your
Sure,
watch.
yeah.
What time is it?
I got you.
7:10.
Quarter, yeah.
Okay, because remember we have to
yeah,
be.
I had a
it's-
conversation with
You mean
Chris
6:12,
Hargraves
right?
about this. He told me that Planned Parenthood had no involvement in the training. Staff were trained by the county, and so I can tell you're
And then-
skeptical of this.
No, in the MOU, if you want to read it from 1921, I think it was in summer. I think it was.
You mean
July.
2021?
2021.
Okay.
Yeah. What did I say? 1921.
It's fine. I'm just
Okay.
making sure you get the
Why don't
record.
This is 2023 now,
Uh-huh.
of course. Our abortion centers, our wellness centers, abortion clinics. And it's not. No, abortions will not be performed. School-based wellness center. Nor
No,
are the
because
staff
they're going to refer
allowed.
them.
They refer them to somewhere else. That's what we're
Yeah.
telling you.
And they do
Okay.
say, they've stated that they're going to give out morning after pills, whatever they are, the abortion
And you see, and again, it's like we have to go to a larger issue. Schools are supposed to be about reading, writing, math, preparing for college, preparing for job training, preparing for other issues.
Yeah.
If children need health and wellness, this is, with all due respect, this is the last place it should be taking place, especially for kids talking to other kids or talking to staff that the parents don't even know about.
Right.
This is a real problem. And counselors, it's a precarious situation. We're working with other states on legislation on this issue, but you have counselors now that are, we had Northern Idaho, we had a child that was dealing with trauma, emotional issues, etc. Her father had just passed away, okay? Died in Afghanistan, okay? So very serious. She was having identity issues, and so she wanted to be treated like a boy. Because, girls, like if they're really attached to dad, they'll start taking on male mannerisms to kind of meet that need that's taken away. They've studied this in a number of psychological journals. The counselor, this is a 5th grader, okay? The counselor says, oh, maybe you're transsexual. The counselor says this to the student, okay? So the kid has emotional trauma. Remember I said abuse, neglect, confusion, molestation, or
So
shame.
you're saying.
And then let me
everyone
finish this.
believes-
And so you've got this 5th grader comes home to grandma and says, I'm a transsexual. See, she's got emotional issues, and now she's getting confusion, which is now compounding it. And now there's issues of trust because the counselor is telling her something that's destructive, false, unconscionable. And ultimately, we exposed this. And so the school district had to change its policy and redirect counselors what you can and cannot talk about with kids. Counselors are not, it's not fair. Let me give the counselor a break. Let me give the school staff a break. They're not supposed to be these high standard, qualified, trained medical professionals. That's not their job. And you as a teacher, they expect you to be sheriff, counselor, social worker, etc. That's outrageous. And they can't do it, and they shouldn't be doing it, and there shouldn't be wellness centers which open the doors to taking kids to abortion clinics or taking kids to get their sex reassigned, so quote unquote. Yeah, all this has got to go. There's no excuse for this. The fact that the protest showed up, we don't want this here. The idea that they would even think of having Planned Parenthood involved with anything on campus is outrageous.
I see you got other supporters here.
Yeah, we've got more people showing up. Yeah.
I see. So, have you actually been to the wellness center yourself?
Of course not. They're on campus. Students can't go on. Adults that don't have kids on campus, they just can't go on campus. That's not possible. You'd have to talk to a parent or a staff member.
Have you talked to parents or staff members?
So I have, and I told you about one kid who recorded the conversation and then revealed it. Jose,
I've
you were.
talked to hundreds of parents. I was involved in the last board election, and I went door to door talking to Democrat, Republican parents. Nobody wants this. Nobody wants that people want to be able to know their children are doing in school. They want to know what advice the children are being given. They don't want that information to be withheld from them. That was a big issue.
And I made calls to both Democrats and Republicans, and I didn't have any blowback from any person that I said we're trying to stop, parenthood from going to schools. Go ahead.
And so,
It sounds to me the point you're making ultimately. This isn't a partisan issue.
Yeah, it's not a partisan issue.
And I need to be very clear about this too. If there's any inkling, we're not a partisan group.
Right.
We've gone after Republican, Democrat, Libertarian, Green. We don't care
We're pro-parent.
for mass resistance.
Parents' rights.
We're pro-parent and
Yeah.
pro-parent right. That's it.
if I may, so what was the name of the student that recorded this?
So we don't have a name.
You don't have a name.
I don't. I have to talk to the person who gave me the recording. But I don't, and that's
Who was
something
the
I
person
wouldn't.
who gave you the
So it
recording?
was Becky Langenwalder.
Becky Langvold. So the student sent that to Becky Langvold.
You're going to have to get the full story from her. Okay.
From
and
Becky?
Yes. And for the record, I wouldn't disclose that student's name because I wouldn't want her to be retaliated against, or he. I got to try to cover that identity.
So
She was a candidate.
And with all due respect, I think it's kind of strange. You're asking me if I've been to the wellness center, well-being center. It's on a school campus. Even if you're a parent, you're a teacher, right? Can parents just say, I want to come see my kid?
Right now,
Are they allowed to do that?
Right now, we have no parent campuses because of the COVID pandemic.
Is that still going on?
That's still going on.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
So, that's something to keep in mind.
I believe that it was rescinded, but it's like an unlimited basis. It's coming back slowly. But all of last year, we had no parent campuses.
And I've worked with a parent. I worked with a parent in Torrance, and he had to go to great lengths to schedule a meeting with the principal, and then he'd have to schedule another meeting to go into one of the teachers' classrooms. There's all these barriers for parents to know what's going on with their kids. This is happening all over the
The
state,
parents are losing trust.
and
Because
yeah.
And that's an important issue because the parents that I've talked to are losing trust. They don't know whether to believe what the school says or not, because the schools aren't communicating. They're communicating lies in many cases.
Yep. And we see this, you got the PR person telling you one thing, and we're asserting something else. There's a huge problem there.
And so parents are losing trust, and we're losing students. And the parents don't say, well, we're pulling out our kids because of this. They just pull them out.
Yeah.
They just pull them out, homeschool them, or send them to a private school.
Yeah, and that's unfair because private education is so expensive. And there's no school choice program the way they do in Wisconsin has a school choice. These are blue states, and they
I
have.
wanted to add that my name is Jose Manso.
yeah, I
No,
got
he
it.
knows you.
Vincent, yeah, I know.
Okay.
When I told my name, he said, so I related to you.
And I also want to add that I don't have, that I think adults can do whatever they want. If they want to have a sex change, if
Yeah.
they want to have
No, we don't have a
homosexual partner, it's their free will. I'm not against that. I'm just against what's happening with our children, because we need to protect our children.
the information that's going to their.
I believe you were saying something that it's unnatural.
We do assert that, yeah, and mass resistance doesn't back away from that. And sometimes, my ultimate assertion, my ultimate assertion is we work with a lot of parents, and with some parents, we take time to explain to them why it's important you have to speak the truth about everything. The point that Mr. Manzo, the teacher, is making which I respect, is adults, they have free will. If they want to make choices that are harmful, that's their choice. People choose to drink, people choose to use meth. Well, it's illegal to do that still. In Oregon, it isn't. But it's important to stand for truth. Homosexual conduct is harmful. Transgenderism is a mental illness. These are not behaviors that should be promoted, and they certainly shouldn't be promoted in public schools and to kids.
Past students?
Past students, yeah.
You remember Mr.
Of
Mans?
course, these are the coolest, and that's their mom.
That's so cool. They're
Nice.
doing something
So-
for.
When they go up there right now, make this presentation,
Who's they? I'm sorry.
the school board,
Okay.
Cummings.
superintendent,
Okay.
you know who the school board members are, right?
Well, yes, of course. We've had people already start contacting them.
Have you contacted them at all?
Yes,
You have?
I have.
Were you able to speak there?
Let's say I haven't met with them personally, no.
No, but I mean like on the phone, whatever.
No, I've emailed them.
You emailed them.
Yeah.
They
And
respond?
you have to, let's see. No, they haven't responded, not in their official capacity. No, they sure haven't.
I see. And so,
They sure haven't. And remember, you have to understand something. These are parents who've reached out to us, and I'm helping them. The key people who have to communicate with them
these
are the parents.
They're parents of students in the district.
They're, yes, in the district, or they're employees in the district, or they're people who support parents in the district. Yeah. It's really important to stress that, because one of the biggest frauds, well, you say it yourself. Did I come to you and say, can I help? No, you came to me.
I have been attending many of the recent school board meetings, and I've heard very few people speaking in favor of these centers. And most of the ones that have spoken in favor of the centers are employees. The principal of John Glenn High School has spoken in favor of it. Other people who are employees of the district who have a vested interest in having this center open. That's their job. But the parents are, 90% of the parents that have spoken are against it. You'll probably hear that tonight.
Yeah.
And there's going to be a lot.
Well, it's about to start. We want to get ready, because I think I have to send cards and everything.
Last thing, real quick.
Okay.
So of course, the funding that's going to.
And that's what it's about, funding, money. That's a lot of times why administrators and employees want this stuff,
Yeah.
money.
And what I was going to say was, the funding that's going to the Wellness Center. Where do you think it should be? Where, in your opinion, where should it be directed to?
Direct dual immersion education is a big draw for the district. Vocational training in other things other than training students how to go to college, but just how to get a job.
How about like education? How about hiring a
and then how
teacher?
about equity?
How about paying the teachers well? I assume teachers are not paid.
Actually, we just got a very nice raise.
Well, that's
I'm not a problem with that.
Good.
But
Okay.
Equity, they're talking about equity. Let's bring these students up who are failing with more one-on-one tutoring and things like that. The class sizes are huge.
Would you mind my asking, you're a what grade level?
Kindergarten,
How many students?
24. We have a cap
It
at
used to be
24.
20. I remember.
Yeah.
See, look at that. 20, you want to have it down to at least 20. And what is it like in the high schools?
45, something like that.
So, Vince,
I think it's
45 kids in a class, that's a crime.
30. It's a crime. You can't teach them that way.
It's outrageous. That's where the money ought to be going. Okay, I got to wrap it up.